Hello, my fellow geeks. Welcome to episode number 64 of the Indian AvGeek. My name is Vishal Mehra. They say the average person changes careers 7 times in a lifetime. Our guest today clearly missed that memo, and the aviation world is better for it. Joining the Lufthansa Group in 1992, back when in-flight entertainment usually just meant a shared projector screen and a hope for a good window seat, Felipe Bonifatti is a true Lufthansa lifer. With 34 years of climbing the crane, he's gone from being the youngest general manager in Latin America to his current role as Vice President for Asia Pacific, the Middle East, and Joint Ventures East. During a time like now, there's no better person to help us decode the future of the East than the man who has seen it all. Welcome to the Indian AvGeek, Felipe.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon to you as well.
How did you and aviation happen, Felipe?
Actually, I finished my high school diploma in a German school, and then started law school in my city in Argentina, where I'm originally from. And nobody in my family speaks German, so I thought that I have to find something to do that I keep my German from school. And then there was this company called Lufthansa that had a small general sales agency office in Mar del Plata, in my city, and I just applied there for a job. And at the beginning, it didn't work, and after a few attempts, then there was this part-time job that I could do while studying law, and so I thought that this is a way of keeping my German and also being able to fly, which I was very much young when I started. I was 17, and I thought this is a good opportunity for keeping my German and flying while I'm getting ready to be a lawyer, and then this part-time job became more than a part-time job. It became a full-time job, and then it became my life basically. So this is where I've started, and this journey has taken me from my origin in Argentina all the way through Europe and Africa and Latin America, and now after almost 3 decades in the amazing area of the region of Middle East and Asia Pacific.
Lufthansa is celebrating 100 years. Its centenary this year as we speak. Many congratulations on that. You have launched a special anniversary fleet, and I see a global campaign running as well titled We Are the Journey. I want to talk to you about the new umbrella brand identity for the Lufthansa Group, Felipe. How does this new visual and strategic alignment help you in the APAC market, where passengers might know Lufthansa but are less familiar with Austrian or Discover or even ITA for that matter?
I think Vishal, this decision of having a brand umbrella does not come out of the blue or in an unplanned way, because this year we are celebrating 100 years of the first Lufthansa, so bringing back this 100 years of legacy of the core Lufthansa German airline. And the idea is that through this new brand we also bring some strengthening into unity, and also the synergies among all the airlines in the group. And you perfectly said, some of the airlines are well more known than others. Lufthansa as a brand has been out for exactly 100 years in different shapes and different times with different things, but not the others. Yeah. So then we have different airlines that will definitely profit from this umbrella brand. And I think there, we are trying to bring us from an airline group into a group of airlines, which I think it's an important step that we are moving into by bringing all these airlines together under the umbrella, under the safety, trust, excellence, and service standards of the Lufthansa Group. And therefore, we are also endorsing most of our aircrafts with the phrase member of Lufthansa Group, just to make sure that this is a perception that is not an internal topic, but rather is done to make sure that also customers are aware when they're flying into an Air Dolomiti flight or Discover Airlines, or they are in any of the airlines of the group. I'm just mentioning a couple of Eurowings is also a good example. This is part of a bigger group, it's part of a bigger family, and it's also part of very high standards in terms of, again, safety, trust, excellence, service, and they all share the values of the Lufthansa Group. So this is really an important part, and I think the most iconic part that remains, not only the word Lufthansa in it, but also the crane, our bird, that has a different shape. Have you seen it's outside that circle that we can say this is a world of a circle, whatever. And also we are bringing a new color palette, allowing us to also bring a bit of the individuality of every airline into the Lufthansa Group umbrella brand as well. Where you're having more options, not just the blue and the white, but also we can play with different colors that are closer to all the airlines and the identities of the airlines. It's super important. This is an umbrella brand that brings an additional value and does not limited the own identity of every airline that are part of the group. Diversity is a big part of what we as Europeans are.
You recently expanded the joint venture with Singapore Airlines to include Brussels Airlines. What's the end objective for this partnership? Is there room to move from cooperation to a deep metal neutrality as we see on the Atlantic?
Yeah, so it's a good example because again, Brussels Airlines is an airline that's not flying into Asia Pacific, and therefore the Lufthansa Group umbrella will give visual to these airlines when customers are flying, connecting in one of our hubs, which is Brussels. So the Singapore Airlines joint venture with Lufthansa is already 8 years or more than 8 years old, right? It's a very senior, I would just say, already experienced joint venture and a cooperation, and metal neutrality is something we already live in that sense. It's limited in terms of geographical scope, and that's why we believe that one of our airlines, such as Brussels Airlines, should be part of it, since Brussels is an airport that is served by Singapore Airlines directly out of Singapore. So that was a bit of a natural step that if Singapore Airlines is flying into Brussels, and Brussels is a Lufthansa hub, and we have an agreement of a joint venture with them, why not also including Brussels Airlines into the joint venture with Singapore Airlines? I think it's a natural step, and this cooperation and metal neutrality is already in place in several countries and several JVs. You mentioned, this North Atlantic, the A++ with United Airlines and with Air Canada. That includes also India, as you know. This might be the joint venture with the highest maturity level, the longest one and the biggest one. But then in Asia, we have three, the one you mentioned, with Singapore Airlines, but also with Air China, but also with All Nippon Airways in Japan. And those three joint ventures are now looking up also to what is being done in the North Atlantic. And this is the longest and the biggest and a very successful joint venture from the Lufthansa Group. So yes, there is always possibility to growth, and this is a natural step in every joint venture to increase the scope. Partly could be the geographical scope, but also partly is the airlines that are joining the JV.
All right. I want to talk to you about Indian Airlines now. With Air India's transformation and Indigo's long-haul ambitions, the non-stop market from India to Europe is clearly on the rise. Does Lufthansa see its future in India as a point-to-point operator or primarily as a hub and spoke feeder to Frankfurt or Munich? What's your take on that?
So thank you, Vishal, for the question. I think I don't have to tell you how important the Indian market is, right? Or how big, it's as a largest, one of the top three largest aviation markets in the whole world, or how fast growing market India is, and how many millions of customers are expected in the next 5 years. So that is all known in India by anybody that is following your podcast. Know about the Indian market and the importance of the Indian market. And that is also how we see India in the Lufthansa Group. This is clearly a very important market. I mean, we are the biggest European operator in India. So when it comes to the Lufthansa Group, Frankfurt, Munich, Zurich, Rome as such, we operate more than 70 weekly flights, from India to different European hubs. So this is for us an important part, and our footprint in India is still extremely, extremely big. And we see growth. And then we definitely see, when it comes to Frankfurt or Munich, I think, we have to be very clear. Those are normally not, end destinations for many customers, but rather, a place to change aircraft as a hub. And the beauty of the Lufthansa Group bringing not only Frankfurt and Munich, but in this case also Zurich and Rome into India, also allows us to have final destinations like Rome, where we see, a lot of point-to-point traffic, but also at Zurich as well, but also connecting customers. And this is where we believe, the beauty of our footprint allows both. Not only point to point, but also hub and spoke feeders, as you mentioned before. I think in general, being the largest European, operator in India gives us a very good position. And I have to say, I was already last year at least twice in India. It's always very nice when you go into a country and you are representing a foreign company, a foreign brand, and your brand is known. Yeah, it's really, and not only within the aviation gig area, but also in general, the Lufthansa brand is a well-known brand in India in general, and that gives you a certain, I would say, if I can say, you feel proud of from your work for and with. Yeah, and that's something that in India is very, very clear.
Yeah, the largest European airline, I think 54 odd weekly frequencies to India now, different cities. So
Yeah, and in some weeks up to 70. So it's really a very, very good presence. And I have to say, the story between Lufthansa, or the history, sorry, between English is not my mother tongue. Sorry, the history between Lufthansa and India has been a long history, over half a century that we are present in there, and flying from different places. And of course, we open and close different destinations. And in the last 50 years, we've seen a lot of changes and so on. But one thing is very clear: Lufthansa has always been present, even in the hardest times, since our reopening, has always been present in India with services. And this is something that we are very, very proud. And I think also that's why we get also so much loyalty from Indian customers. Yeah, that's very, really nice to see when you board one of our flights. I would say the one I take a bit more often is the Delhi Frankfurt flight, and then we just get into the plane, and you see, that in our seats you have a lot of local customers. It's not just European flying to India; it's a lot of Indians deciding to fly Lufthansa, and this is something we are very, very thankful for to the Indian customers for choosing us.
absolutely. You were talking about Rome, Felipe, so this should be a good segue into that. Now, the Lufthansa Group owns 41% of ITA Airways. How does Rome fit into the APAC network? Could we see Rome becoming the southern hub for Asian traffic, potentially bypassing the congestion of Frankfurt or Munich?
I think in general the answer will be in the future a clear yes. But let me just give some aspects of my answer before. So clearly our commitment with ITA Airways, we own now 41% of the company, and we have call options to take over majority of shares. And the next one is in June, and we know that our CEO made already some statements that we are looking into it. Yeah, no, so no decision yet, but it looks, if you just read the recent, statements from our CEO, then it goes in that direction. The integration with ITA has been, extremely fast, the fastest integration from all the ones that we have done in our group, and still, looking into how much else we can do until we have majority stake, if that's the case. And so Rome brings to us a good access to the southern hemisphere, so to say. Yeah. ITA Airways is quite strong also in South America, with flights to Buenos Aires, Rio de Janeiro, Sao Paulo, sometimes double daily. So for us, we are doubling our capacity in South America by integrating ITA Airways. Going really, it's exactly another 100%. So it's really doubling the capacity to South America. When it comes to Asia, ITA is present in different areas. I think we mentioned India, but also Japan and Thailand. And then let's see what else ITA can fly in the next years, and when we can work closer together on the network side, which is still not the case. But definitely the geographical position of Rome, of Fiumicino Airport, gives us a much better access to the southern hemisphere, and that not only includes Asia Pacific, but also clearly also South America. And then I have to say, if you haven't been in Fiumicino for quite some time, the change that Fiumicino Airport did recently, one of the 5-star airports in Europe, is fantastic. The experience in Fiumicino has changed in a way that very few airports in Europe and in the world have seen in the last decade. So it's really a pleasure arriving, departing, but also connecting through Fiumicino.
I was reading that Lufthansa is mentoring ITA Airways for its entry into Star Alliance this year.
Yes.
What does this mentorship actually look like? Are you literally teaching them the Star Alliance way of doing things?
Yeah, so this is not the first time Lufthansa is mentoring an airline to start into Star Alliance. I remember many years ago we did it with 2 airlines, and as well as we are founding members of Star Alliance, and then our processes are very much aligned for over 25 years with Star Alliance, and it's a natural thing that I would say, founding members, do take under their wing, airlines that are joining us in Star Alliance. And in this case, specifically with ITA Airways, since, it's part of the Lufthansa Group, it's a natural mentorship, so to say. And that means what we are looking into is how do we support the airline in achieving in the shortest possible time the so-called standards, that Star Alliance requests from all airlines. And there's a pretty complex process of integrating systems and operational requirements to it. But the biggest part, I think, it is how much we do as quickly as possible to bring additional value to our customers. So especially frequent flyers do profit from the Star Alliance umbrella as soon as possible. And through this process, we go over different things. We apply the 4I principle. There is a supervision also from the headquarters of Star Alliance here in Singapore where they are sitting and also from the airline. And I have to say, when I look, we had an exchange the first week of December with Star Alliance here in Singapore at their headquarters. And the process with ITA Airways is very much advanced, and they are very much profiting from the vast experience of the Lufthansa Group, not only in integrating airlines, but also in the alliance itself as a founding member.
What's the timeline for ITA's entry into Star Alliance, especially as we have crossed mid-March now?
Yes. So ideally, I don't know if how much this is about. We are looking into a very clear start of ITA Airways in the first half of this year.
Before moving ahead and talking about joint ventures, this is a quick reminder to some of our listeners who listen regularly but do not subscribe to the show yet. The right time is now. Press the follow or subscribe button on your favorite app. Back to the show now. Felipe, beyond the Singapore Airlines and Air China joint ventures, are you evaluating new partnerships in high growth markets like India? Or is the strategy to deepen existing partnerships like you have just done with Air India?
Okay, the answer is yes. So we've spoke before about the importance of the Indian market. So it wouldn't be consequent, to say it's an important market, but then we don't do anything there, clearly. So otherwise, we say something and do something different. This is not the way we work and think and act in the Lufthansa Group. So I think it's not a secret that we have a very strong partnership through Star Alliance with Air India. And this is something we definitely are looking into how we can open a deeper relationship. I think this is a clear signal. The first thing we always do is look for local partners that are strong and also members of Star Alliance. And there we have those two boxes are very clearly ticked by Air India. It's a strong partner. It's part of three. It's part of Star Alliance, and it's a local partner that knows the market. So I would say that it's, of course, it's clearly above my pay grade, but I would say that there are, that we are always looking for additional relationships and partnerships. And the natural partner for us, based on all these things, is clearly, one of the natural partners is clearly Air India. And we have cultures with Air India, by the way, and we have agreements with frequent flyer programs and Star Alliance standards. So that would be a natural next step.
Boeing has pushed the 777X delivery to 2027, next year. Lufthansa is the launch customer of the aircraft, of course. How is this delay specifically hurting your capacity planning for APAC routes like Tokyo, Singapore, Delhi, Felipe?
Yeah, I think you're touching a very sensitive topic. That it's a very painful topic because as same as we want, also Boeing would be willing to deliver as many aircraft as fast as possible. So we are on the same boat with Boeing. We have full trust in Boeing. I think we still expect to be the launch customers of the new Boeing the 777-900 definitely, and we have 20 in order. Those aircraft have been in order for almost, 2013, was the order. So you can see, how much, pain this delay is causing us. And clearly it has an impact in our network planning. Absolutely has an impact in our network planning. But I think we are not the only airline affected by delays in deliveries, in several aircraft types, including the 777, clearly is a big topic for us. So we do expect that in summer 2020. So when you said next year, I said, no, wait, this is 2027. And of course, we are already in 2026, for the last week. So you're absolutely right. It's next year. And we do expect that we will be able to operate next European summer with the 777 in the Lufthansa Group. That's still our hope. And again, we have full trust in Boeing. And of course, we are very impatient to see those aircraft coming in. Just us and sales, of course, in marketing, and distribution, but also our pilots, also our, cabin crews, our stations. Everybody is willing to see a 777-900 with Lufthansa livery flying next summer.
Yeah, I mean, AvGeeks around the world are rooting for Boeing, and hopefully the 777X will not face any more delays. Felipe, there are whispers that Discover might take some of the more leisure-heavy routes from Lufthansa, especially where customers might prefer lower fares. What's your timeline for that?
So first, let me just say that whispers or rumors are always there about everything, yeah. And our industry is very well known that we like these things, that we like to somehow feed into these things, yeah. And it's fine. I think we all do it a bit, yeah. And it's okay. I would just say. The production platform from Discover Airlines, brings a lot of value for money for customers and also has a cost advantage for us as operators. So it's absolutely a natural thing to look into which destinations could perform better for the company operated by a different platform, but additionally where customers will accept such a product, yeah. And because I have to say, if you have not flown Discover, I can encourage you to do it. It's a fantastic product, yeah. When you fly, especially the business class, I mean, it's really a very good product. It has a better cost structure and therefore giving us a chance to fly to places where maybe yields are lower and the demand in the non-premium classes is higher. So we don't have a timeline for that, but we know that there is a expansion of a fleet planned for Discover, getting next year 350s, 900, and this will give us aircrafts within Discover that could potentially serve more destinations and more destinations in Asia Pacific. Right now we have no Discover destination in Asia Pacific. We have, of course, in other places. But this is something that we were looking forward into having one more airline and one more brand flying into the region. But at this point of time, there is no concrete plans. You have another call, an exchange with you, and I can share a bit more towards the second half of this year what the plans are on this topic.
When you look at all the reviews of Allegris, I've read and even watched video reviews of the product before our chat today. I've also read more than 1 million people have flown Allegris till December 2025, so I can only imagine what the number must be right now. And your NPS scores have been good too. On the other hand, you have 5 different types of Allegris business class seats. I want to know, how are you managing passenger expectations on that? And is this much complexity necessary?
So first of all, let me start saying our NPS in business class is the highest in Allegris than in any other of our products. So you are right. Feedback from customers is really good. Still, there's a lot of complexity, and you're absolutely right. So the question is, how much balance do we find between complexity, or how much complexity is needed in order to address individual needs of customers? And we might have, I would say, overdone it a little bit in terms of going all the way with all possible individuality and individual requests from customers, coming up with these 5 different types of seats. But I think at the end, it pays off. So customers are really looking forward. I flew already twice Allegris, and I have to say the suites are absolutely our top product. Yeah, the one on the windows are absolutely top. The one in the middle for couples, for families, is highly appreciated. The seats that have a bit more privacy because they are on the window are fantastic for customers that just want to they don't eat, they just sleep or work and go, especially for sleeping and going back to your destination without too much of a service interaction in the cabin. The big seat in the middle, if you really need space to put a laptop and a folder and stuff. So I think we are very much catering most of the needs of customers, plus the extra long. I mean, we know that in Northern Europe, but not only, we have areas. I know, I have good friends from Northern China, but also people are huge, like in the Netherlands, and so customers which are really big and tall. They do like a place where they can put their feet and not filled. It's very uncomfortable. So I think we are catering a lot of individual needs of customers, and that brings complexity. Would have done it a bit easier Yes, definitely. But when you look into the feedback from customers, when you look also into the willingness to pay for these additional services, it's clearly there. So I think we manage a pretty good balance between complexity and individuality. But we, of course, if we will be launching this again, we might, do it slightly different as we always learn, because also we have feedback not only from our customers, but also from our business partners, no? Travel agencies and TMCs saying, hey guys, you are fantastic in terms of addressing all these individual needs. For selling those products, it might be a bit challenging here and there. So therefore, I think, learning from our business partners, learning from our customers, and also from the stations and from our teams, call centers, etc., will give us, a different approach when we launch the next generation of seats. That will come.
With joint ventures becoming so deep and powerful, is Star Alliance still the primary driver of value for you in APAC, or is it becoming a secondary layer beneath your direct bilateral partnerships like with ANA or Air China or Singapore Airlines?
So I would say there's not a hierarchy on this. It's rather the approach. The Our Star Alliance commitment is a global alliance commitment that covers every single point with every airline in the alliance, and this is extremely relevant because it gives us global presence. And as founding members, we believe in the values of Star Alliance, as we did it, 25 years plus. We still believe in those values. And when it comes to the regional approach, therefore, the joint ventures have a direct, commercial impact, especially because with joint ventures, we do have antitrust immunity, and therefore we can work on topics that within Star Alliance partners we can't. So those are two levels, different levels, and it's not a hierarchy, as I said. I think it's a cooperation, and they very much work together. Yeah. So as you have seen, all our joint ventures are clearly with only exclusively Star Alliance members. So that gives you already a bit of an answer to your question, that we don't see joint ventures without Star Alliance, but rather as a combination of both working together.
Got it. If we fast forward 5 years, right?
Yes.
What would success for Lufthansa look like? Is it market share? Is it margins? Is it strategic relevance? Higher brand recall? What is it?
Um, I think if we just fast forward 5 years and we analyze what success means, I would just say always a safety operation will be my first thought on this. Yeah, success will be a completely safe operation in the next 5 years. It will also be achieving our customers' needs by having a good NPS from our customers, looking into the future and saying, we are delivering what we are promising, and our customers are acknowledging that. I think those two things are actually quite important. Also, success will be in a higher level how our industry is perceived as such, that we manage to find ways that the industry remains strong. A strong industry, help us all. And I also believe that we also look into success also means that we successfully completed integrations of new airlines, ITA Airways clearly, but potentially other airlines as such. And also I have to say we are a company that are also willing to do business and also willing to have a profit that we can share with our stakeholders, and therefore that we also achieve as well our EBIT objectives as well, to also bring value not only to employees but also customers, but also our stakeholders. I think those are the things that will define success in the next year. But I think we are the largest European company, number 4 in the world. The big three are Americans companies only, right? So if we can, we are starting our next 100 years in our history as of yesterday, actually. So success could be measured in many ways, but I would just say customer value, safety operations are our almost the very good success factors of to measure success.
And finally, Felipe, I want to know what's the hardest truth about operating a European network carrier today that does not get discussed publicly enough as per you?
I would just say that it will be nice to have a fair play field compared to other regions in the world. The regulations in Europe are there, and there is a good reasons for that. It will be nice that we have so we are a global industry, yeah, and therefore it will be nice to have fair rules or fair play that will be seen, that you don't have an advantage because you're not European, or the other way around, that you have a disadvantage because you are a European carrier as such. We are very proud of being a European carrier, extremely proud, and our DNA is purely European. This should not be a disadvantage in terms of how competitive we are in the market.
Got it. Thank you very much, Felipe, for your time, and thank you very much for coming on the Indian AvGeek.
Thank you very much. I really, it's the first time, and I hope it's not the last one. So if there are any other topics that you would like to discuss, I think we are always open at the Lufthansa Group.
If 34 years at one airline sounds like a marathon, remember that Felipe has likely spent more time at 35,000 feet than most of us have spent in our own living rooms. Think about that for a moment. Felipe has seen Lufthansa go from a single brand German flag carrier to a multi-airline European powerhouse with over 100,000 employees. From the complexities of the new Air India partnership to the rollout of the Allegris cabins, it's clear the Lufthansa Group's East is in very seasoned hands. A massive thank you to Felipe Bonifatti for sharing a slice of his 3-decade journey with us today. Next Sunday, it is the turn of the Indian AvGeek. It will be episode number 22, and it will be Lucy Jameson from Uncommon London joining us, one of the most celebrated agencies in the world right now. Felipe is not active on X, but you will find me everywhere, including Blue Sky, as @Vishal1Mehra. Happy to have your feedback. With that, keep your tray tables up, your seatbelts fastened. I wish you well, and happy flying, my friends.